MLS is back. Probably. Maybe. Hopefully. Who knows? After months of no football, no soccer, no pro sports in North America, MLS is announced that they are coming back in 2 weeks with the MLS is Back tournament. All 26 MLS teams are going to be going to Disney World in Florida and are going to be playing in a 1-month-long tournament to determine who gets a spot in next year's CONCACAF Champions League. The first 3 group stage games for each team are going to count for the regular season, but besides that, it's just a random little tournament to go on in one single location as MLS waits for the go-ahead to play in home cities. But for right now, this is what we got. It's a fun little tournament, a weird little tournament, but of course it might still get canceled again because of Florida's recent resurgence of COVID cases. But fingers crossed it does not. Fingers crossed they can do it safely, and hopefully we will be having MLS soccer next month. But enough lead-in. Here is my predictions for the tournament, which is called the MLS is Back tournament. Seriously, MLS, is that the best you could do? MLS is back. I swear, Don Garber, fire your entire media staff. Fire every single person you had in charge of picking that name. It is the most uncreative, unoriginal, uninspired thing I have ever seen a professional sports league put out. The MLS is Back tournament. Just think that is the most uncreative thing you could have picked. But it's what we're with right now. So here are my predictions for the 2020 and probably only MLS is Back. Oh, I hate it. MLS COVID Bonanza is what I'm going to call it. Here we are. So MLS tournament. It's going to be divided into 6 groups, much like the Women's World Cup. But because there are 26 teams and not the 24 teams that would be required to make 6 even groups, Group A has 6 teams. Group A is also the weakest of the 6 groups in my opinion. So to start things off with Group A. Group A, we are going to have NYCFC, Philadelphia, and Chicago taking the 3 spots in the round of 16. And then Orlando, Inter Miami, and Nashville all I don't think can quite cut it. NYCFC, obviously the best team in this group. Philadelphia and Chicago, I think, are benefiting from being in an easier group. Orlando, I want to see them make it, especially since they're the hosts of this tournament, but they're just such a crapshoot in recent years and just honestly in their entire existence in MLS. As much as I want to see it, and as much as I think that they could possibly take the 4th place spot in Group A and be one of the top 3rd place or 4th place in Group A teams, but I'm not 100% convinced in them, so I'm not putting them in it. Inter Miami, Nashville, expansion teams, and both did not have the hottest starts in the first 2 games before the season was shut down, so those 2 I don't have making it either. I think NYCFC, Philadelphia, and Chicago are all for sure going to make it into the round of 16. Orlando might squeak in, but I wouldn't put money on it. Group B. Seattle, 100% making it. Defending MLS Cup champions, 2 of the last 4 MLS Cups, been in 3 of the last 4 MLS Cup finals. They are 100% moving on to the round of 16. FC Dallas, they're a pretty solid team, younger, never really get much going, but they are pretty consistent and are pretty obviously better than San Jose and Vancouver, who are both teams. San Jose, Vancouver, both bottom feeders in the Western Conference, both not very good. Both did not make very many significant improvements during the offseason, so I'm putting them not making the round of 16, and honestly with the amount of talent in the 3rd place teams that I have in some of the other groups, I don't really see either of them challenging to be a 3rd place team. Group C, we have my home club, TFC, definitely making the round of 16. Again, same boat as Seattle. 3 of the last 4 MLS Cup finals they've been in, won one of them. Best team in Canada by a wide margin. Definitely going to be in the round of 16. DC United was in the playoffs last year. Better than New England and Montreal in my opinion. Probably should clinch 2nd place. New England Revolution, interesting one. Now, I have them above the Montreal Impact because Montreal lost Piatti over the summer and didn't really replace them, whereas New England seems to be on the upswing. Also, the Revs, I could see them picking a point off DC and beating Montreal, probably finishing with 4 points in the group. So I actually do see the New England Revolution squeaking into one of those 3rd place spots and being one of the 3 third-place teams or 4th-place in Group A teams to go on to the round of 16. So in Group C, I have Toronto FC, DC United, and the New England Revolution all making the round of 16. Group D. Real Salt Lake, Minnesota, Kansas City all have moving on. They're all pretty solid teams. Minnesota is on the up and up. I can see them squeaking by Kansas City. RSL, for sure, 100% the best team in this group. Kansas City is good enough, definitely, to be in the round of 16. So I'm giving them a 3rd place move-on spot because of that. Honestly, Minnesota, Kansas City could switch out, either of those teams being the 3rd place team spot, and I could see whichever one of them wins probably is moving on. Colorado just is kind of not very good in recent years. I don't see them being able to pull off victories against any of these 3 teams. Maybe they could pull off a draw against like Kansas or Minnesota, but I just really don't see Colorado making the noise required to move on in this tournament. So Real Salt Lake, Minnesota, Kansas City all moving on from Group D. Group E. Atlanta United, New York Red Bulls, 2 consistent playoff performers, easy picks to move on in Group E. Columbus Crew, FC Cincinnati, both kind of weaker squads. FC Cincinnati was very bad last year, and while yes, they have slightly improved, they're not on the level of the Red Bulls or Atlanta. Columbus Crew, kind of middling, not really a major contender yet in MLS in their new upswing. So this group was pretty easy. I think had one of the biggest diversity gaps between the top 2 teams and the bottom 2 teams. Atlanta, New York Red Bulls both should easily move on to the round of 16. And finally, Group F. This one was the group of death. I have LAFC, Portland Timbers, and LA Galaxy all moving on. The poor Houston Dynamo, they're not really a playoff team regularly, and they just never really had a chance in this group going up against 3 of the best teams from the Western Conference. LAFC and Portland are my choices to be the top 2. The Galaxy is actually an interesting one because, well, yes, the LA Galaxy should definitely be in the round of 16. With LAFC and Portland in their group, they're going to be hard-pressed to end up in a 3rd place moving on spot. I think they should be able to pick up a point somewhere against one of LAFC or Portland and easily beat the Dynamo. So they should be able to get into the round of 16. But that's probably the biggest swing team, in my opinion, of could possibly end up out. And if the Galaxy end up out, that leaves open a room for Orlando or Columbus to move into the round of 16. But of those 3, I think the Galaxy have the highest percentage of making it. So I'm putting the LA Galaxy as the final 3rd place team to go on to the round of 16. So here's how I think the group stage is going to go down. The round of 16 is going to consist of New York City FC, Philadelphia Union, Chicago Fire, Seattle Sounders, FC Dallas, Toronto FC, DC United, New England Revolution, Real Salt Lake, Minnesota United, Sporting Kansas City, Atlanta United, New York Red Bulls, LAFC, Portland, and the LA Galaxy. Here's what the matchups for the round of 16 are going to look like. First up, New York City FC versus the New England Revolution. New England's on the up and up, but I don't see them ready to beat NYCFC just yet. So NYCFC is going to take this one. Philadelphia Union versus DC United. This is quite an even matchup and honestly could swing either way, but I think DC United is just a little bit of a better team, so I think DC United is going to take the edge against the Union. Seattle Sounders versus Chicago Fire. Defending MLS Cup champions against the Chicago Fire. So I think this is pretty obvious is going to be the Sounders. Real Salt Lake versus the LA Galaxy. This is interesting. You have a team that's built to be an MLS team. The depth, kind of quiet, mostly built of lesser known MLS grade players versus the LA Galaxy, which has some very good high-end talent, but lacking in the depth department. Honestly, I can see RSL shutting the Galaxy down and taking this one, and I kind of really want to see that happen. So I'm going to say RSL is going to win this game. Bit of an unpopular opinion, I know, but I think RSL is definitely good enough and has the right mentality to be able to do it. Toronto FC, Sporting Kansas City. Toronto FC is just an elite team in MLS. Sporting Kansas City is good, but they're not on that level. I think, of course, it has to be Toronto FC. Dallas, Portland, again, we have a mid-level MLS team against a higher-tier MLS team. Portland is just regularly a pretty solid contender in MLS. Was in MLS Cup 2 years ago, so they have to move on against Dallas. And my black marker sucks, so it's red now. Anyways, red's good. keep that in mind. Atlanta against Minnesota. Minnesota is on the rise, but I mean, Atlanta United, one of the best teams in MLS. And yes, they don't have Josef Martinez, but I think they can manage just fine against Minnesota with Barco and Pity Martinez. So I think Atlanta is going to move on. And finally, LAFC versus the New York Red Bulls. The New York Red Bulls are a very good, very consistent MLS team, but in my opinion, LAFC on paper is the best team in MLS. So LAFC is going to move on to the quarterfinals over the Red Bulls. Now here is the quarterfinal bracket. Now as you can tell, one side seems to be a little less stacked than the other side, and that's going to make for some hell of a matchups in this half of the bracket. But first half, NYCFC versus DC United. DC is a very good mid-table MLS team, and I think in my bracket here, they've gotten to the quarterfinals with a little bit of a benefit of some weaker matchups. So going up against NYCFC, who is actually an elite team in MLS, I think they are going to not be able to pull through. NYCFC is going to move on to the semifinals. Next, Seattle RSL. RSL is a very good team, but they're not Seattle good. Seattle is one of the top 4 teams in MLS, in my opinion. And while RSL is very good, they just don't have the depth and the top-end talent that Seattle has. So Seattle is definitely going to be moving on to the semifinals. Toronto FC, Portland. Portland's good, but Toronto FC is going to have all 3 designated players healthy, plus a healthy Michael Bradley. That's just a combination that most teams in MLS cannot top. And with that on top of the added depth, I think Toronto FC should have just more firepower and what it takes to pass Portland and move on to the semifinals. And finally, probably one of the biggest matchups that this tournament will have, Atlanta versus LAFC. This matchup could be a war, but with Josef Martinez injured and not going to be playing in the MLS's back tournament, Atlanta just doesn't have the elite striker capabilities that LAFC is going to have with Carlos Vela. So I think just because Josef Martinez is hurt, LAFC is going to take this one. Atlanta, unfortunately, just does not have anyone who can replace the level of production that Josef Martinez can give and the level of danger that Martinez can give. And now, semifinals. NYFC versus Seattle. Both very good teams, but Seattle has the big game experience, has MLS Cup winning experience. They know what it takes to win games like this. So I think this stage, the Seattle Sounders are going to win and move on to the finals of the MLS's back tournament. And now, because Seattle's in the final, the other half has to be Toronto FC. Now, as fun as that would be, and as broken of a league that would make MLS, Toronto FC going up against LAFC, TFC just does not have a Carlos Vela. Maybe overall, with everyone healthy, Toronto FC has a better all-around team, but in a tournament with one game between the two to decide it, I think Carlos Vela is the type of player who could step up and just demolish Toronto FC. Yes, Pozuelo and Altidore both have those abilities, but I just don't see Toronto FC getting lucky, and I don't see a 4th Toronto FC Seattle final. I think it has to be LAFC. LAFC has just been building too much over the past couple of years to not get to the finals of a MLS tournament at some point. And I think this is where they finally break through and make it to the finals that they've been trying so hard to get to. And the final will be an all-Western Conference matchup of Seattle Sounders versus Los Angeles FC. And this is going to be an incredibly tight game. Seattle is fantastic defensively. LAFC is fantastic offensively. But a small tournament like this breeds moments for special players. And I think this tournament, the MLS's back tournament, is going to be where Carlos Vela fully pops off and solidifies himself as one of, if not the best striker MLS has ever seen. Because of the small tournament format, I think Vela is going to prove himself to be the guy who wins this tournament almost single-handedly. And so I think this is going to be Carlos Vela's tournament. This is going to be Carlos Vela's championship. So I think the winner of the MLS's back tournament will be LAFC. So there we have it. That's how I think the MLS is back tournament, the MLS COVID Bonanza tournament, is going to go. Los Angeles FC is finally going to win a MLS title, kind of. I mean, it's going to be weird because it's going to be a weird one-off tournament that's never going to happen again, and I don't know how the winner of this tournament is going to be seen in history, but it's a Champions League spot, so LAFC is going to win. Let me know down below in the comments who you think is going to win the 2020 MLS is Back tournament. Let me know which teams you think I have completely underestimated. Let me know which teams you think I have drastically overestimated. And as always, if you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.